"Get this woman out of here," my sister Victoria snapped at security, her manicured finger pointing at me like I was some intruder who'd wandered in off the street rather than her own flesh and blood. Mom added sharply from her position beside the grand piano, loud enough for the entire Saturday afternoon crowd at Westfield Country Club to hear. "She's humiliating us. Showing up here dressed like that, pretending she belongs." I didn't flinch, just stood there in my simple sundress and sandals, calm and collected, watching the performance they'd orchestrated for the benefit of their society friends. Then the club director hurried over, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the marble floor, his expression changing the whole mood from hostile to something approaching panic. "Ms. Thompson," he said respectfully, ignoring my sister entirely and addressing me directly, "would you like us to cancel their memberships?" The color drained from Victoria's face, so fast I thought she might faint into the champagne fountain she'd been standing beside. Mom's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Around us, the Saturday social crowd, the wives of senators, the hedge fund managers, the old money families who traced their memberships back generations, all turned to stare. "Cancel our memberships?" Victoria's voice pitched high with indignation. "Charles, what are you talking about? I'm Victoria Hamilton Price. My husband is on the board of directors. This woman is my sister. She's nobody. She cleans houses for a living." Charles Worthington, the distinguished director of the most exclusive country club in the state, turned to Victoria with an expression I'd never seen him wear before. Cold professionalism mixed with barely concealed disdain. "Mrs. Hamilton Price," he said formally, "I'm well aware of who you are. You're a Tier 3 member who joined 4 years ago through your husband's corporate membership. Ms. Thompson, however, is the owner of this establishment." The champagne flute in Mom's hand hit the floor with a crystal crash that seemed to echo forever. "Owner?" Victoria laughed, but it came out strangled. "That's impossible. The owner is some reclusive billionaire. Elliot Thompson. Everyone knows that. Elliot was my nickname in business school," I said quietly, speaking for the first time since I'd walked into the club. Eleanor Louise Thompson was too much of a mouthful for the boys' club, so I shortened it to Yell, then Elliot. It stuck for business purposes. "You're lying," Mom said, but her voice shook. "You're my daughter. You live in a 2-bedroom apartment. You drive a 10-year-old Toyota. You clean houses on weekends. I live in the penthouse above the apartment building I own," I corrected. "The Toyota is reliable and comfortable. And I don't clean houses. I own a commercial cleaning company with contracts for half the office buildings in the city, including, ironically, your husband's law firm, Victoria." Charles cleared his throat. "Ms. Thompson purchased Westfield Country Club 6 years ago for $47 million. She's invested another $30 million in renovations and improvements. She owns the golf course, the marina, the restaurant, and all associated properties. Every membership fee, every dining bill, every golf lesson, it all goes to her company." I watched my family process this information, their worldview crumbling like week-old pastry. "But you never said anything," Victoria whispered. "For 4 years I've been coming here, and you never said anything. You never invited me," I pointed out. "In 4 years of membership, you never once invited your own sister. I found out you were members when I saw your names on the roster. Do you know how that felt? We thought you wouldn't fit in," Mom said defensively. "These are important people. Sophisticated people." "People like me, you mean?" I asked. "People who own businesses, create jobs, contribute to society? Or did you mean people who judge others by their zip codes and car models?" The crowd around us had grown. I recognized several faces: Judge Harrison, whose grandson I'd personally sponsored for Yale; Dr. Mitchell, whose research foundation I funded anonymously; Mayor Davidson, who'd asked me 3 times to run for city council; "Eleanor," Judge Harrison said warmly, approaching our group. "I didn't know you were coming today. Would you like to join us for lunch? We're discussing the new pediatric wing you're funding." "Pediatric wing?" Mom echoed faintly. $20 million, the judge continued, obvious to the family drama he'd walked into. "Eleanor's donation will build the most advanced children's hospital in the state. We're naming it the Thompson Center for Pediatric Excellence." $20 million, Victoria repeated, swaying slightly. Her husband Richard steadied her, his own face pale with shock. "It's a good cause," I said simply. "Children shouldn't suffer because their families can't afford quality health care." "Ms. Thompson," Charles interjected carefully, "about the membership situation?" I looked at my sister, who'd spent 4 years flaunting her country club membership at every family gathering, making sure I knew exactly where I stood in her social hierarchy. My mother, who'd stopped inviting me to her charity lunches because she didn't want to explain what her other daughter did for a living. When did you last see them here, Charles? I asked. He pulled out his tablet, checking the records. Mrs. Hamilton Price was here Thursday for tennis. Mrs. Thompson Sr. was here yesterday for the garden club luncheon. The luncheon where you told everyone I was between opportunities, I said to Mom. Yes, I know about that. Margaret Fairweather is a friend. She found it odd that you'd say that about someone who'd just donated $1 million to the literacy foundation you're supposed to be chairing. You donated to my foundation? Mom's voice was barely audible. Anonymously. Every year for the past 6 years. How did you think you kept making your fundraising goals? But why? Victoria demanded, tears starting to ruin her perfectly applied makeup. Why hide this from us? Why let us treat you like the family failure? Like someone to be ashamed of? Like someone not worthy of a country club invitation? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through old messages. Here, let me read some highlights from our family group chat. Poor Eleanor, still struggling. Maybe someday she'll amount to something. At least she's good at cleaning. Someone has to do it. Should I continue? Richard, who'd been silent until now, cleared his throat. The Whitmore acquisition last year. The one that saved my firm from bankruptcy. The anonymous buyer who kept all the employees and increased benefits. Hello, Richard, I said calmly. Surprise. He sat down heavily in the nearest chair, not caring that it was occupied by someone's designer purse. You saved my career. You saved 200 jobs. And at the Christmas party, I introduced you as my sister-in-law who does something with cleaning supplies, I finished. Yes, I remember. This is insane, Victoria said, rallying slightly. Even if you own this place, even if you have money, you still deceived us. You lied to your own family. I never lied, I corrected. I told you I worked in commercial real estate and service industries. You're the ones who assumed that meant I was a janitor. I said I was involved in healthcare initiatives. You assumed I meant answering phones at a clinic. Every assumption you made was based on your own prejudice about what I was capable of. Eleanor, Dr. Mitchell approached, unaware of the tension. Perfect timing. The board wants to discuss your proposal for the free health clinic. Are you available Monday? Of course, Thomas, I replied. 10 o'clock. Perfect. Oh, and thank you again for the research grant. We've made incredible progress on the Alzheimer's treatment thanks to your funding. As he walked away, Mom sank into a chair, her legs apparently unable to hold her anymore. Alzheimer's research? But Dad died of Alzheimer's. You're funding research because of Dad. $5 million a year since he passed, I confirmed. The Thompson Memorial Research Fund. We're close to a breakthrough that could help millions. $5 million a year, Victoria whispered. That's more than Richard makes in a decade. Money isn't everything, I said, echoing the words she'd used to console me so many times when she thought I was poor. It's what you do with it that matters. Charles cleared his throat again. Ms. Thompson, I still need to know how you'd like to handle the membership situation. Club rules are clear. Members who create disturbances or show disrespect to the owner can have their memberships revoked. I looked at my sister, who'd built her entire identity around this country club membership. My mother, who'd found her social circle here after Dad died. They'd been cruel, yes. Dismissive, absolutely. But they were still family. Their memberships stand, I said finally. But with conditions. Conditions? Victoria asked warily. You'll volunteer 20 hours a month at the free clinic we're building. Both of you. You'll see how the other half lives, the people you've spent so many years looking down on. Maybe you'll learn something. And if we refuse, then your memberships are revoked, and everyone here will know why. Your choice. The silence that followed felt like it lasted years. The entire country club seemed to be holding its breath, waiting to see what Victoria would choose. Her pride or her membership. You planned this, she accused, her voice trembling. You've been planning this for years. No, I said, sitting down at an empty table and gesturing for them to join me. I never planned for this confrontation. I bought this club because I loved it, because Dad used to bring me here when I was little, before the divorce, before you decided I wasn't worth acknowledging. I kept my ownership private because I didn't want to deal with exactly this, the accusations, the drama, the assumptions that I was trying to show you up. Mom sat down across from me, her face older than I'd ever seen it. Your father brought you here? Every Sunday morning. He'd sneak me in through the service entrance because children weren't allowed in the main dining room before noon. The staff knew, of course, but they loved Dad. He treated everyone with respect, the waiters, the groundskeepers, the parking attendants. He taught me that money doesn't make you better than anyone else. He never told me, Mom said softly. You'd already moved on to husband number 2 by then. Victoria was at Swiss boarding school. It was just Dad and me, and Sunday mornings at Westfield. Charles discreetly moved the crowd along, giving us privacy while still standing close enough to intervene if needed. The man had worked for me for 6 years. He knew my family history better than my family did. When Dad got sick, I continued, I promised him I'd take care of things. He didn't mean financially. He thought he was leaving me nothing but debt. But I'd already started my first company by then, the cleaning service that you all mocked. What Dad meant was that I should take care of the memories, the places that mattered. This club mattered. So you bought it? Richard asked, still looking stunned. The previous owners were going to sell to developers. They'd have torn it down, built condos. All of Dad's memories, all those Sunday mornings, erased for profit. So yes, I bought it. Paid cash. Restored it to what it was in Dad's time, but better. The staff wages are now the highest in the industry. We have the best chef in the state. The golf course is PGA certified. And we've opened membership to people who deserve it, not just those who inherited it. People like us, Victoria said bitterly. You earned your membership through Richard's company. That company employs thousands, provides good jobs, contributes to the community. That's worthy. What's not worthy is treating people as less than because they don't meet your narrow definition of success. A young woman approached nervously, Sarah, one of the waitresses I'd personally hired. Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the senator is here for your 3 o'clock meeting. Thank you, Sarah. Tell him I'll be there shortly. I turned back to my family. Senator Williams wants to discuss my appointment to the State Commerce Commission. I need to go soon. State Commerce Commission? Mom echoed. But that's one of the most powerful positions in state government. Yes, it is. And they want someone with actual business experience, not just inherited wealth. Imagine that. Victoria had been quiet for several minutes, processing everything. Finally, she asked the question I'd been waiting for. How much are you worth? Does it matter? Will you treat me differently if I say 50 million versus 500 million? 500 million? Richard choked on the water he'd been sipping. Actually, it's closer to 800 million, Charles said quietly from his position nearby. According to the latest Forbes estimate, Ms. Thompson made the list this year. Number 247 in the country. I shot Charles a look. He shrugged apologetically, but didn't look particularly sorry. Forbes. Victoria pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. There it was, my photo, my real name, my story. Self-made billionaire. Started with a single cleaning van. Owns 43 companies, philanthropist. Why didn't I know about this? Because you never Googled your own sister, I said simply. You never cared enough to look beyond your assumptions. The house in Aspen, Mom said suddenly. The one our travel club stayed at last year. The owner let us use it for free. That was you. Happy birthday, Mom. I know how much you loved skiing there with Dad when you were married. The scholarship fund that paid for Victoria's daughters to go to Princeton? They're smart girls. They deserved a chance without student loans. The anonymous donor who saved the animal shelter Richard's mother volunteers at? I like dogs. Each revelation hit them like a physical blow. Every kindness I'd done secretly, every gift I'd given anonymously, every way I'd tried to stay connected to their lives without their knowledge. You've been taking care of us, Mom said, tears now flowing freely. All while we treated you like the embarrassing poor relation. Yes. I stood up, smoothing my simple sundress, the same kind of outfit they'd mocked countless times. But here's what you need to understand. I didn't do those things to buy your love or prove my worth. I did them because that's what Dad would have done. He believed in family, even when family disappointed him. We're horrible people, Victoria said flatly. No, you're people who've let money and status define your worth and everyone else's. You're people who've forgotten that everyone has value beyond their bank account. You're people who need to remember what Dad always said. Money is just a tool. Character is what matters. I remember him saying that, Mom whispered. I thought it was just something poor people said to feel better. And that, I said, is why you're going to volunteer at the clinic. To remember that poor people are just people. That the woman cleaning your office might be building an empire. That the man serving your coffee might be putting himself through medical school. That your sister, who you assumed was a failure, might be the person signing your husband's paychecks. You own Richard's firm? Victoria asked weakly. 60%. I'm a silent partner. Richard's actually an excellent CEO. He just has terrible judgment in social situations. Richard stood up abruptly. I need air. Sit down, Richard, I said firmly. We're not done. He sat. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to stop telling people I'm between opportunities or finding myself, or whatever euphemism you use for what you think is failure. You're going to treat every person you meet with basic respect, regardless of their job or bank account. And you're going to start seeing me as I am, not as you've imagined me to be. And if we can't, Victoria asked, if we can't change who we are, then you'll lose more than your country club membership. You'll lose any chance of having a relationship with me. And given that I'm apparently funding your children's educations, your husband's business, and your mother's charities, that might be a significant loss. That sounds like blackmail, Victoria said, but there was no heat in it. No, it's boundaries. Something I should have set years ago. Charles approached again, this time with Senator Williams beside him. Ms. Thompson, I apologize, but the senator has a flight to catch. Of course. I stood, then turned back to my family. I have to go, but I want you to understand something. This revelation doesn't change who I am. I'm still the same person you've dismissed for years. The only thing that's changed is your perception. Think about that. I started to walk away, then stopped. Oh, and Victoria, your membership fees are waived from now on. Consider it a family discount. Why? She asked, genuinely confused. After everything, why would you do that? Because I can. Because despite everything, you're still my sister. And because Dad would have wanted me to. I paused. He loved you both, you know. Even after the divorce, even after you chose Mom's money over his weekend visits, he loved you. He'd be disappointed in how you've treated me, but he'd still love you. Mom stood up, taking a tentative step toward me. Eleanor, I know, Mom. But apologies can wait. Right now, I have a state to help run. As I walked away with Senator Williams, I heard Richard ask Charles, she really owns all of this? Everything you can see and quite a bit you can't, Charles replied. She's the best employer I've ever had. Treats everyone from the groundskeepers to the executive chef with equal respect. Your sister-in-law is remarkable, Mr. Hamilton Price. It's a shame it took you this long to notice. The senator and I settled into the private dining room for our meeting. Through the window, I could see my family still sitting at that table, looking lost and small in the grandeur of the club they'd thought made them special. Family troubles? Senator Williams asked diplomatically. Family revelations, I corrected. They just discovered I'm not who they thought I was. Ah, he smiled knowingly. I had similar issues when I went from construction worker to senator. Some people can't see past their first impressions. No, they can't. I pulled out the Commerce Commission paperwork. But that's their limitation, not ours. 3 hours later, after the senator left and the sun was setting over the golf course, I found Mom still sitting in the lobby. Victoria had gone home, but Mom waited, her designer purse clutched in her lap like a life preserver. I thought you'd left, I said, sitting beside her on the antique settee Dad had once said was worth more than his car. I couldn't. Not without saying this. She turned to face me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine emotion without the society mask. I failed you. As a mother, I completely failed you. I let my own insecurities about the divorce, about money, about status poison how I saw my own daughter. Mom. No, let me finish. When your father and I divorced, I was so angry. He chose his principles over profit, walked away from the investment firm rather than compromise his ethics. I thought he was a fool. I remarried for money, for security, for status. And I taught Victoria that those things mattered more than anything else. And I reminded you of Dad, I said quietly. Every day. Your integrity, your kindness, your refusal to play social games. You even look like him. She pulled out a tissue, dabbing at her eyes. I couldn't stand it. So I diminished you, made you small, convinced myself you'd inherited his weakness for choosing principles over profit. Except I chose both. Yes, you did. You became everything he would have been proud of, while I became someone he'd be ashamed to know. We sat in silence, watching the ground's crew prepare for tomorrow's tournament. They waved at me as they passed, and I waved back, something that made Mom raise her eyebrows. You know them all by name, don't you? She asked. Miguel's son just started college, engineering. Thomas is getting married next month. Andre's wife just had their third baby. Yes, I know them. They're good people. Your father knew everyone's names too, she said softly. At the firm, before the divorce. The janitors, the secretaries, the mailroom kids. He treated them all like equals. It drove the other partners crazy. Is that why they pushed him out? Partly, but mostly because he wouldn't help them hide assets in offshore accounts. He had this ridiculous notion that paying taxes was patriotic, that businesses owed something to the communities that supported them. Imagine that, I said dryly. A businessman with ethics. I thought he was naive. Now I realize I was the naive one. He had something worth more than money. He had integrity. And he passed it to you, despite my best efforts to kill it. You couldn't kill it, Mom. You just made it stronger. Every time you dismissed me, I worked harder. Every time you excluded me, I built something new. Your rejection became my motivation. That's a terrible thing for a mother to hear. But it's true. She stood up, gathering her things. The volunteer work at the clinic. You were serious? Very. Then I'll be there. 20 hours a month, more if you'll let me. I want to learn to see the world the way you do. The way your father did. It's not easy, I warned. You'll meet people who've lost everything, people who never had anything to lose, people society ignores. People like you pretended to be? I never pretended, Mom. I just didn't correct your assumptions. She started to leave, then turned back. The property in Maine, the one where our family used to summer when you were little. I tried to buy it last year, but someone had already purchased it. That was you, wasn't it? Dad proposed to you there. He told me it was the happiest day of his life. I couldn't let it be turned into a shopping mall. What are you going to do with it? Nothing. It's there if you want to visit, to remember when our family was whole. The caretakers have your name. You can go whenever you want. This time, the tears that fell were real, raw, and healing. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. For the property, for my charity, for Victoria's children. For not giving up on us even when we gave up on you. Dad never gave up on you, I said simply. Even at the end, when the Alzheimer's had taken almost everything, he still asked about you and Victoria. He still loved you. So I chose to honor that love, even when you didn't deserve it. We don't deserve you. No, I agreed. You don't. But you have me anyway. The question is, what are you going to do with this second chance? She straightened, and for a moment, I saw the woman Dad had fallen in love with, strong, determined, capable of growth. I'm going to earn it, she said. I'm going to become someone you can be proud to call mother. That's a start. As she left, Charles appeared with a cup of tea, my favorite, prepared exactly how I liked it. Eventful day, Miss Thompson? You could say that, Charles. For what it's worth, your father would be proud. You handled that with more grace than they deserved. You knew my father? I was a junior waiter when he used to bring you here. He always requested my section. Tipped well, remembered my birthday, asked about my studies. He's the reason I stayed in hospitality. I wanted to be the kind of person who made others feel welcome, the way he did. He had that effect on people. Yes, he did. And so do you. The staff here, we'd do anything for you. Not because you sign our paychecks, but because you see us. You value us. Just like your father did. I sipped my tea, looking out over the club that held so many memories. Do you think they'll change, Charles? My family? People can surprise you, Miss Thompson. Your mother waited 6 hours to apologize. Your sister didn't contest the volunteer requirement. They might just surprise you yet. Maybe, I agreed. Dad always said everyone deserves a second chance. Wise man, your father. Yes, he was. As the sun set over Westfield Country Club, I thought about Dad, about the lessons he'd taught me without knowing he was teaching them. About kindness being more important than wealth. About integrity being worth more than status. About family being complicated, but worth the effort. Tomorrow, the news would spread. The mysterious owner of Westfield would no longer be a mystery. My family would have to face their friends, explain their behavior, confront their prejudices. But tonight, I sat in my father's favorite spot, drinking tea prepared by someone who remembered him fondly, running a business built on principles he'd taught me, and choosing to forgive people who'd forgotten those principles. Thanks, Dad, I whispered to the evening air. For everything. Somewhere in the distance, I could swear I heard him answer. That's my girl. Now go change the world. And I intended to do just that.